There has been massive controversy on the internet over the Daily Wire situation. First, they did away with Candace Owens, which is one of their personalities, more recently brought on board, mind you. I think she came in just before Brett Cooper. They still have their core group, which is, of course, Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, Michael Knowles, and Matt Walsh, as well as Brett Cooper. Candace Owens provided a bit of a counterpoint and a new position to discussions, as she was more traditionally Christian. She's generally something between the liberalism of Andrew Klavan and the conservatism of everybody else on there. Generally somewhat less religious, if you will. Of course, her being Christian and her being more grounded in American culture, being black and not necessarily wealthy all of her life like pretty much everybody else on that show was, save maybe Matt Walsh. She's more of an every person, which is one of the main reasons they brought her on board, is because she's more of an every woman, or every man, as I would say if she was a man. And to be frank with you, I think her being black actually added to that, her connection to everyday people, because, you have all these old white dudes, and of course stodgy dad character of Matt Walsh that he kind of assumes, this kind of character he play acts. She kind of provided a counterbalance, a more culturally on the spot individual who is more involved in culture and modernity, and so that allowed her to better interface some of the views that are put out by the Daily Wire in a more digestible format for those of us who might be younger and less into gerontocracy and traditionalism and such, more modern voice. They got rid of her because she disagreed with the Zionist leanings of the Daily Wire. Now, I would like to make this video principally and primarily to talk about Zionism for a second. It's not inherently problematic to have Zionism. What is problematic is to essentially deny the ability of anyone to condemn Zionism. Now, we're not talking about the type of attitude that people like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar have towards Jews. That's not what we're talking about. Fundamentally, Zionism only topically has anything to do with Jews in the first place. Jews and Zionism are it's a false equivalency that the two are like indistinguishable from each other. They're very different things. You can be Jewish and not be Zionist. There are plenty of Jewish people who are anti-Zionist. Zionism is effectively leaning heavily into like this ideological separatism that is not very dissimilar from other peoples of the Levant area and Islam more at large. Islam, if you're not part of their sect, are very separatist regarding you as an outsider. They have names that they would call you because you're not part of their tribe. You don't necessarily have to be treated with the same regard as people in their in-group, and they're actually not obliged to be fair with you or reasonable with you unless they choose to do so. I mean, all things being equal, I think most people in Islam would treat people outside of Islam as equally as possible, but they do kind of see you as either unintentionally or intentionally astray. Somebody who's corrupted and not, purified. You're an impurator. And on a lot of levels, ideological Judaism has that same stance towards outsiders, non-Jews. And some sects of Judaism, because again, it's not a monobody. You can't look at two Jews and say they're exactly the same any more than you can look at two white people or two black people and say they're exactly the same. That's not how this works. They're not a monolith. They have different sects and sub-leanings and factions, if you will, that believe slightly differently what they believe. There can be discrepancies. Like, you got the Orthodox types, you got the Hasidic types. They might not go in with the more westernized, secular Israeli Jews. And the funny thing about Israel, the country, is that there might be some loose adherence to prioritizing genetic Judaism, but spiritual Judaism doesn't necessarily follow, because you can be a secular Jew. There's a lot of Jews that live here in America that don't necessarily keep kosher, for example. They might eat pork. They might, enjoy paella, and that's not within the keepings of Talmudic, or I believe it's Talmudic, is there a Bible? Whatever. I'm not versed in the topic. But I'm getting also a little into left field here. My point is that Zionism is very different than Judaism when we're talking about things to do with Judaism. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Jews should not have their own land, and you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Now, like, I believe it was Lenin, all the way back in the day in Russia, that actually set aside a place and guaranteed the safety of any Jews who wanted to seek refuge there during a time that preceded the Third Reich. This was before all that popped off and all that went on. For a long time, the Jewish tribe, the Israelites, have had a hard time in history. It's been hard for them. There's not many of them left. They are most definitively not liked in a lot of places, which is kind of messed up. They're just people for the most part. So, they need a place to go that's, a home for people without a home. And that's fine. That's all good. And that wasn't even the only place that they could seek refuge, that they were guaranteed safety. There were one other place, I can't remember where it was. And then, after turning their nose up at those two offers, they got Palestine, to the chagrin of the Palestinians. And there was actually a few, I think like a week ago or something like that, a nice little 4-man debate, including Steve Bannell, Destiny, for no reason whatsoever, that talked about 1948 and the founding of Israel and some of the fallout that came about from that, And that was a mess. And whether it was right or wrong, I'm not going to tell you anything about it because I have no skin in the game and it's not my place to tell you what is morally correct and incorrect. But what I will tell you is that the Daily Wire is a Zionist Fox analog news media site. They are Zionists. That's their particular stance. They can have that stance. I'm not saying how dare they. It's not an accusation. It's not a condemnation. It's not a judgment. It's just a statement of fact. The Daily Wire is a Zionist organization. So if you go there and you work for them as a personality on their news systems, or you're an anchor on one of their shows, if you work with their studios to produce content, you need to understand that you have to align with their Zionist perspectives. And if for some reason you're not Zionist, you're going to have a bad time with the Daily Wire. You're not going to be all the way welcome there. And eventually you're going to come to odds with those people, and you're probably going to part ways as Candace Owens did. They have every right to believe what they believe, if that's what they want to do. But what they don't have the right to do is to effectively tell Christians everywhere that they need to basically shame themselves and get on their knees and submit to begging for mercy from the almighty master religion, populated exclusively with those chosen of God. Like, your religion is inferior to ours because our God said we're chosen, and your God, which is our God, didn't say that you're chosen, so we're better than you. And I'm like, well, now, hold on a second. You don't afford those courtesies to Christians. Christians in Israel don't have the best time. Go ask a Christian in Israel how life is. And if they don't think there's any reprisal, if you can grant them anonymity so that they can speak candidly to you off the record, they're going to tell you the truth of the matter. They're second-class citizens. And that's hilarious that one of the biggest religions in the world is a second-class citizens to, like, the smallest religion in the world. How is that for an ego trip? Look, we're not going to tell you you don't have a right to exist. We're not going to tell you that you don't have a right to believe what you believe. We're not going to tell you that you don't have a right to any attitude that you want to have towards anybody. But what we are going to tell you is that maybe it's time that you start figuring out for yourself how you're going to conduct your affairs without trying to subjugate much bigger groups than you with guilt tripping and petty mind games and just, I don't know, shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. Sign language, just like a woman uses. I'm here to tell you it's not okay. And if people want to say Christ is king because their God in the flesh is Jesus Christ, and Jews don't want to acknowledge Jesus Christ as God in the flesh, they can have that disagreement, and you can go separate ways on that issue. But you're not going to go over and tell a religion much bigger than yours, who effectively is de facto funding your very existence and seeing to your very safety that they are not allowed to exalt their Messiah. Now you have a fucking problem. And if that's what the Daily Wire signs, if that's what they subscribe to and that's what they want to believe, that the people who are basically making it possible for them to exist as a business and making Israel possible to exist as a country, which, by the way, is a secular European-style Western country. It's not a Levant. It's not a country that's like, they're in the Levant, but they're not styled as a people of the Levant. They're styled as a bunch of Westerners, Europeans, and secularists. It's not a heritage land. And if you want to know how they really feel about Israelism, there's some Israelites right now in Ethiopia that are pure tribe that go all the way back to the days of Abraham that are not acknowledged and will never be acknowledged by the people who live in Israel. Wrap your head around that. Wrap your head around that. They get no protections from their own kind or from anybody else. Nobody cares if they live or die. And there have been numerous attempts to genocide them. Never makes the news, though. So I guess it's all about who you know, who you blow. And right now, the Daily Wire is blowing it in a different sense. Like, they parted ways with Candace Owens. That's fine. They don't have to. They can hire or fire anybody they want, but there's going to be consequences, and there's optics that wrap around that issue. And now you have the optics of another one of their primary characters, one of their primary personalities, coming out and saying effectively that if you're a Christian, you're basically anti-Semitic because you're Christian. That's pretty much what the message was. I don't think that's what the intended message was, but what every Christian heard when they were told that Christ is King is basically a dog whistle for anti-Semitism, is that basically, unless you submit that your religion in every way is inferior to Judaism, then effectively you're anti-Semitic, and worshiping your God and believing your God is God and not submitting to our definition of God makes you an impurator, an infidel, a subhuman piece of garbage. That's basically what they came out and said. And this is from a Jew who converted to Christianity, who basically just insulted his own religion that he converted to stand for his financial master. And if anybody has any spirituality that watches my content, that has any faith whatsoever, regardless of what you believe in, even if it's Scientology, you'll quickly understand that you can't serve two masters. You can serve your God, you can serve yourself, you can serve your employer or your government, but you can't split your faith between two different things. You have to have ultimate faith and ultimate submission to one master and one master only. If you try to submit to two masters, you get torn in half, and that's the end of you, and it's to your own peril and doom that you go. The Daily Wire has chosen, and this is going to hurt them, and it should hurt them. Again, not because they're, a Zionist-facing company, but because they've let their stance get in between themselves and profit. Now, when you're running an organization that is clearly revolving around the concept of generating revenue, as the contract controversy with Steven Crowder pointed out, it's kind of stupid to alienate yourself from one of the largest segments of your fan base. The vast majority of people that subscribe to the Daily Wire, their subscription service, Daily Wire Plus, are Christians. And you basically just called them all a bunch of anti-Semitic heathens. Well, it looks like Daily Wire Plus is going to lose some subscriptions. So be it. Again, you can't serve two masters. If you want to serve Zionism, that's fine. There's nothing that says you can't, and you should have every right to do that. But it's not going to allow you to continue to garner profits. Because as soon as we find out where our tax money is going to this ridiculous forever war over there, where we're expected to fund both sides of a pissing match, both of those sides, by the way, have no regard for us, think that we're contemptible heathens and apostates. We're just garbage. We're all going to basically burn and not have a good afterlife because of who we are, but we need to fund both of them. We need to fund Islam, we need to fund Judaism, and we need to fund their war on both sides. And make no mistake about it, effectively, the United States government does fund both sides of this conflict because there's agents in the Middle East that get money from us that are putting that money into Hamas's hands, and then we're openly giving money to Israel, and then they're using that to kill each other. Our money. So my tax money, no permission from me, is going over there to keep those people killing each other. Now, why the fuck should I care about these two people killing each other? It's not anything to do with me. It's not happening in my country, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's my business or it's on my concern priority list. I don't want to see women and children get, hurt. Of course not. I don't want to see any misery or death, but it's not my call. I'm not going to come into your house and tell you how you're going to raise your family and how you're going to live your life. If you're beating your kids in front of me, what am I supposed to do? Step in? Well, if I'm there, I guess I have to. But if I'm not there and I know what's going on, what business is it of mine if it's not even in the same city where I live? That's for somebody else to deal with and enforce and figure out and step in between and moralize over. I have my hands completely full, just paying my own bills, living my own life, and just doing what I can not to be a piece of shit in my own life. And that's where I'm going to focus my efforts. And as far as I'm concerned, I would rather see my tax money go towards patching the roads, keeping the electric grid up, keeping the sewage lines running, and stuff like that, instead of buying guns and knives for people to kill and shoot each other with. It's ridiculous. So no, I'm not Zionist. I don't support Zionism. I don't condemn the existence of it, but I'm not going to get behind it, because all it leads to is the type of separatist bullshit that is exactly what's driving the forever wars and other elements of the Middle East, where this is not going on, but now it's going on here too. It's just intertribal drama. It's family fighting, and the fact that a bunch of Western Jews went over there to inflame the region didn't really help anybody, least of all themselves, and I don't wish them to be coming to harm, but apparently they want to do what they want to do. And is it more bigoted for me to say that they shouldn't have done that, or is it more bigoted for me to say, screw that, kill all the imperators? Because I'm on that list of imperators, and if they had their way and they had victory over there, they'd start subjugating the West next. You think they wouldn't? They have done in the past. Read the Old Testament. Read the Bible. They will come for you too. They have no favorites that they play other than among their own. And again, I'm not passing judgment on that other than leave me the fuck out of it. And if you can't do that, then we got a problem. I'm not going to be your friend, but I can definitely be your enemy if that's how you want it to go. But that's not what I want to happen. I don't want to be your friend or your enemy. I just want you to leave me out of your nonsense. Leave me alone. That's it. I'm not going to interfere in nothing. I mean, if you kick my door in and try to take all my stuff, or you try to hurt me and my friends and family, yeah, I mean, I'm going to step in then, but you can manage not to do that, you're good to go. Be Zionist. It's kind of disgusting now. And that's my take on the Daily Wire drama.